All right, awesome. Well, Dr. Trisha, I am so honored to have you on. This is such a privilege. You have no idea. I feel so honored to have this space with you and be able to share your expertise with the world. So thank you again so much for being here.
Oh, I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Well, okay, where to begin, right? I mean, I think this is the perfect time because at first I was wondering, I'm like, well, I wish I could share, do this in person with you and possibly experience the ice therapy with you and all the expertise you do share and the tools you use to help people relieve stress, anxiety, and just better their life and expand their human. So, since we're doing this virtually, we're going to dive deep into your practice and all the tools that you teach everybody. And I'm excited to learn about it all. So for the people that don't know of you, can you share your story?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a sports chiro by trade. And for pretty much the last 2 decades, I've really been diving into what makes us an optimal human and how do we become one. And getting back to our primal roots. Our primal genes were not made for this modern environment. So even when I was a chiro, I had a practice in Los Angeles, and I couldn't just look at somebody's knee and hip and shoulder. I had to know, how do I impact this person's overall human performance and expand their capacities and really empower them on, what they do have control over in this body of a vessel we have. And of course, finding out more and more that we can steer it to where we want to go. We're not just at the mercy of it all the time. And so when I was doing that, I went through and studied all different disciplines and got different, certifications. If you could pay me to just learn, that's what I would do. I would be a student for life. But just learning everything from, movement, nutrition, functional medicine, longevity, brain health, human connection, they all always just kept repeating these underlying themes, that what we should be doing should be simply human. We should be getting sunlight. We should be in our bare feet. We should be talking to people more than just on screens, although today that's what we have to do, but at least we have some kind of community, using our eyes for other things than just screens right in front of us, moving all day, just very, so we need to do things that are simply human. Also, little things matter. We're always looking for, the hack or the, oh no, it can't be that easy. Like we'll get into breathwork. Like, no, it can't be that easy. It's got to be something more complicated or more expensive. And it's really just little things that I've learned have a big, big impact if you're consistent with them, right? And that we need both routines, which saves our brain, it saves our decision making, our willpower. So we need routines with certain things, but then we also need some volatility, some disruption. What's happening in our world today, but also other things like cold, hot, fasting. Those are actually good stressors for us to learn. So I've built what I call, basically it's a lifestyle medicine and it's called Expand Your Human. And I have 6 primal principles: sleep, breathe, move, play, challenge, and be still. And so that's the program I have and what I teach, and just putting it together for people to realize, again, just empower them in their own health and with simple things.
Sounds so phenomenal. And I completely agree. For example, diets, like everybody thinks they should do this particular diet. This is the way to go. And for me, I think it's like clean eating, like things that actually our body knows how to process. And I think that's the way to go. And I think that comes down to the primal things that, that we have right in front of us. I don't think it's some fad diet, and that's just one simple thing, but again, all the things you speak to. So I know that you, if I'm correct, you are the first Wim Hof certified trainer that started the Wim Hof method. Am I correct?
So I'm one of the first in the US.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
correct. And so tell me about that. So for everybody that, I mean, I know people have probably heard of the Iceman, Wim Hof himself, and I know you teach his method. So I would
Hmm.
love if you could go into what that looks like. What's the, besides your expand your human, which is the 6 principles, what is the Wim Hof method?
Yeah. So Wim is from the Netherlands. He's a Dutch man that he has held 26 world records, a lot of them having to do with the cold. And the basic underlying message with the Wim Hof method is that we can, in fact, control a lot more of, our body than we ever believed before, and can, again, really expand our capacities. And he uh, he lost his wife, who committed suicide due to mental illness, and he was, he had 4 kids at the time, and so that left him like, okay, well, how do I go on, right? How do I somehow find peace in my heart, show up for my kids? And nature for him always gave him answers. He always kind of looked outside the box, and again, what we could do inside of us. So he went out in nature and really discovered, what cold could do for our bodies, how it made him feel, developed a breathing technique. And then to get it out into the world and to get people to care about it or understand, what it was, he crushed those 26 world records. And then, of course, researchers and people started to get interested, like, wow, how does this guy do this? And maybe we can use this, for illness or anxiety, or, where could we take this? And so there's actually, I think 3 or 4 published studies now on Wim and the Wim
Mm.
Hof method, which is amazing because research is not easy to get done. So then that's when it pretty much got popular, is when there was research behind it. And so it involves 3 pillars, the breathing exercises, cold exposure, and mindset and commitment.
Mm.
And I fell in love with it because it's just, again, something we should all be doing as humans. It's not like rocket science. Wim always jokes, like, he's like, I'm the worst business person in the world. I sell air and cold. So, but we should all have some kind of breath practice. We should all be exposing ourselves to cold and hot, and we should all be training our mindset and commitment. So it's basically those 3 pillars. And like you said, I was lucky enough to be within the first US group that was certified I think it's been about 6 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't
And
even know it's been around this long.
yeah,
That's
I know
impressive.
it's still coming. It was very popular in Europe before it got out to the US. Tim Ferriss, he was on Tim Ferriss's podcast. That's kind of when it started to move in
Mm-hmm.
to the US. And it's just, so I just dove in, and I was lucky enough to be able to bring some breathing anatomy and physiology. So I teach for the Wim Hof Method Academy, which is where, if you want to become an instructor, you go through this year-long program. And I also get to speak on Wim's tour, which is a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I know it is part of your practice. So I think it's important to know what that looks like, his teachings as well. So let's dive into the breath. So of
Yes.
course, we all know we need to breathe to live. That's a no brainer, but using the breath for actually to calm our present state and as well handle a future situation. How is the breath the tool you use in those situations? Like, for example, the anxiety or fears we're going through right now, the stress, how do you utilize the breath, and what is the correct way to do it?
Yeah. So we only have a few ways that we can directly kind of steer. I use the word steer a lot rather than control, but, steer our nervous system. When we get into some kind of stressful situation, there's really, they say adrenaline kicks in about a second. I mean, it just goes, right? But we have a few, what I love, Dr. Huberman, he's a neuroscientist that I learned a ton of stuff from. He talks about, we have these access points when we are in stress that can kind of push back into that stress and calm us down. And, you know, stress is unfortunately gotten this negative connotation, like it's bad, right? You can't have stress. But stress is in fact just a primal response of survival. It keeps us alive. So it's quite handy. The problem is we need little spurts of it, little jolts of it, and then we need to be able to come back down from it. That's when it's healthy. Just the same thing like an ice bath. You know, it's stressful at first when you get in, and then you go through a shift and you're able to calm yourself down. So in, you know, today's world, in the situation we're in, of course, there's a lot of anxiety and stress, and just having a mindset. There's just a really great article that was written by some Stanford scientists in the New York Times about how they did a few studies on how just your mindset of what stress is. And if your mindset is that stress can be good, then you can use it to your advantage and be able to, again, come down on that relaxation side. So we have breathing, so the keys here are, I always say, trust your exhale. So if you inhale, when you inhale, your heartbeat actually speeds up a little bit. When you exhale, your heartbeat slows down. Anyway, if you've ever heard heart rate variability, that's what happens. And you want your heart rate variability to be high, which means you have a lot of variability between heartbeat fast, heartbeat slow. It's very healthy. So what I say is trust your exhale. So say you're in some kind of anxiety, you know, again, just number one is to be present with it. Just have awareness. Okay, what's happening to me? Okay, I was just watching the news, you know, my heart's beating a little bit faster. I have some shallow breathing, and just feel like, I was like, get fascinated of how your body actually reacts to things. Fear's the same way. Like, it's an awesome tool. So what it's doing in that moment is it's mobilizing resources, right? And it's kind of agitating you. One, so you get up and go do something and move, but it's mobilizing these resources so you have resources to go do whatever it is you're going to do, right? So you're being aware of what's happening. And then what you're going to do is you're going to inhale through the nose. Breathing in or out of the nose is much calmer than breathing in and out through the mouth, especially on the inhale, right? So breathing in through the nose and then long breath out. So if you can extend your exhale twice as long as your inhale, you're in good shape. So you'll feel lengthening out that exhale. I mean, you can feel your heart rate just start dropping. That's the other thing to be aware of is like, I always say, just kind of check in with your heartbeat. So that long breath out will shift you into calm. And then Dr. Huberman actually they're doing research out at Stanford just yesterday came out, and he said there's a new one where you inhale twice in through the nose and then long breath out. And they're finding this is really helping people, you know, what's called down regulate or calm. So it's it's really interesting. So those two breathings, like I said, just trust your exhale. You'll find when you're in those moments of anxiety, it's, you know, the breath's kind of up here. It's usually through your mouth much faster. So if you just switch it to the nose, long breaths out, you can shift pretty fast.
That's so helpful. I know that a lot of people need to kind of be aware of that at this time, especially when there's so many more stresses. So I'm curious, I know the breath is used and I don't want to make an immediate shift into cold therapy, but I know part of that is the breath that actually enables you to handle the cold therapy. So can we talk about moving into the cold therapy? Why is this so beneficial? Why do we shock our body in the way we are by going into this ice cold bath for a couple minutes, I believe is what we're supposed to do, right?
Yeah. So there's many physiological benefits and of course character benefits of doing things that are hard. physiologically, we are using our what's called our thermoregulatory system, which is a primal system in our body that adapts us to cold and hot. So we want to keep that system healthy and actually use it. It's not healthy to remain at room temperature your entire life. You want to be able to get hot, cold, and then, level out in between there. So you want to work your thermoregulatory system. You're also getting a workout of your blood vessels. So when you get in the cold, your body does what's called a blood flow shunt. So your blood vessels in your limbs, your arms and legs, vasoconstrict, and then around your organs in your brain, they vasodilate, they open up. One, to conserve heat, and two, to keep your most important parts alive, right? So you're working out, you're getting a blood vessel workout. So again, you're getting some vasoconstriction, vasodilation, which is what you want. You don't want to just maintain at this all the time. You want to move up and down. Think about it like mobility of our joints, right?
Yeah.
Blood vessel mobility. So we're getting a good workout there. We are, as far as character, like doing something hard, especially first thing in the morning, when you don't want to turn that shower cold at the end and you do it anyways, it's kind of like a victory, right? And it sets you up for the day, like, okay, well, now I can take on this hard conversation, or, whatever it may be, step up on stage in front of people. That's the ice bath changed my life and enabled me to shift my perspective on fear, on what fear actually is and how I can use it. I think it's actually very powerful, and allowed me to get up on stage, which I never believed I would be able to do. So it allows you to train those situations, also train stress. And then you're right, it's all about the breath. I mean, the whole ninja move in the cold is you go through a shift from it's always going to be cold, right? You're going to get in, takes your breath away, let it take your breath away. I say go for the ride. Then inhaling through the nose, long breath out. Same thing we just talked about. And that's what takes you through that shift.
So I have a question. When you're breathing in and out, are you supposed to focus on a particular thing, or are you just focusing on your breath?
You want to focus internally. So it's your breath, it's your heart rate, it's maybe feeling like how the blood flow shunt happens. So it's what we call interoceptive focus, or internal focus. So you want to feel the sensations that are going on inside your body. And then, of course, part of that is connecting to the breath. So you're not thinking about these, more human thoughts, or like, oh, the water's going to be warm. None of this stuff.
It's so hot in here.
Yes. One of the new studies with Wim that came out last year was they put him in what's called a functional MRI unit, which shows which parts of his brain are active during things. And he was in a suit that you could pump cold water and warm water through. And they wanted to see when he's in the cold, what parts of his brain are lighting up. And what they found was before and after the cold, he was dropping into that internal focus. So it wasn't this prefrontal cortex, our human brain thinking all these things. It was more like just feeling. And he always talks about feeling as understanding. So
that's so fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. So I know you talked about how it's to get our cells moving. So is there any other tool that does this type of cell movement as cold therapy does? Is there any other tool that people could use if they, of course we could jump in our showers and turn on the cold for a little bit, but any other things we should possibly incorporate that would do that?
Hot. You can only get hot showers so hot before it burns your skin. But even a nice, hot bath. Saunas are amazing. There's really good, solid research behind saunas. If you want to know about saunas, Dr. Rhonda Patrick is one to follow on that. She's been on Joe Rogan a few times, and she knows all about saunas. So saunas. Fasting. Fasting is
Mm.
also a good one, even if it's just intermittent fasting, fasting for a day. It's good for us to be hungry. Most of us just eat these days because we're not even aware, like we're probably not even really hungry. We just
Yeah.
eat because, oh, it's, 9
Lunchtime.
a.m. and I usually eat breakfast at this time, whatever it may be, right? Um, so being hungry is actually a good thing. So all of those hot, cold, fasting all activate our longevity pathways. So all of those things are very good. They're called hormetic stress. Obviously at a certain dose, it could kill you, but if you're in that range of having a good dose, that actually makes you better. It's like
Mm.
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's
Mm.
think about hormetic stress like that. So cold, hot, fasting are all good ones.
Is that one of the things in your practice they teach about intermittent fasting and the positive impact that could make as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't touch much on, nutrition. Like you said, it's eating clean. I mean, there's not one diet that's necessarily good for every single human because
Right.
we're all different. Um, so I stay away from touching on that kind of stuff. I do study a lot of Dr. Sachin Panda. He's actually here at UCSD. He studies a lot on what's called time restricted eating.
Hmm.
So instead of us thinking, and I think this is actually a more positive way to think about eating, is so we have our time restricted eating. So they find about 8 to 12 hours during your day. That should be what's called your feeding window. So instead of us thinking intermittent fasting is like, oh my God, I can't eat for, whatever, 18 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're thinking about, okay, I have this window, like this is where I'm going to consume my food is, these 10 hours. So that's what I talk a lot about and where the research is heading, because timing matters with literally everything we do in our life. I mean, we're like, if you think of our human as just a bunch of clocks, and light is the first thing that gets our clock going in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
but all of our hormones do different things throughout the day. Our digestion does different things. So they're really trying to decipher what's the best feeding window and then what time of the day. So what they've been finding as well is shifting that to what's called an early time restricted eating. And I found a huge difference in that. I would do more of my intermittent fasting where I wouldn't eat till 1 or 2,
Mm-hmm.
then I'd have dinner around 8. And so I started shifting it much earlier, being done by 5 o'clock, and sleep totally improved.
Mm.
Now this could be different for everyone, of course, but it's something to play around with. Is just having a certain window and then keeping a log, maybe doing that for like a week and keeping a log on how you feel. Eating, sleeping are all important things that need to be on a routine. Like I said before, we need routines, but then we need some volatility. We need some variation. But the easiest thing with sleep is just to be consistent with what time you get up, what time you go to bed.
Mm. And why is that?
Because your body is setting its clocks.
Mm-hmm.
So you want those clocks to be running, and they're the best if you sync them up with the earth. So if your circadian rhythm is synced up, or what's called entrained, with the light dark cycle of the earth, that's where we're at our most optimal.
Mm.
It's like if you go camping ever, you wake up when the sun comes up, and then at night when it's dark, you maybe have a fire, which is awesome, and then you usually go to sleep pretty early, and get a
Mm-hmm.
good night's sleep. That's what they've actually done with people. There's studies with people with insomnia. They'll take them out to go camping,
Mm.
and it'll help them sleep better just by syncing them up with the light dark cycle.
That's so interesting. I've heard that it's actually really bad to sleep during the day, especially, and then also to have like a night shift that you do for your work. I heard that's really bad for your health. Is that true?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Mm.
It's definitely not good. And especially right now, I mean, sleep is hard to come by for a lot of people, on the front lines. And so it's a tough one. They're doing a lot of research on that to try to help wherever they can. So we'll see once some of that research comes out as
Mm.
what you can do to help it at least.
Right. How
Yeah.
could we best set ourselves up for the best sleep besides the setting the time, like trying to go to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time? And it's interesting because I know that there's been a lot of people that have mentioned that they always wake up on the dot at 6:30 a.m. or whatever it may be, and it's kind of fasting. So it seems like they've developed that habit over time. So it's natural. That's their body's clock. But how do we best set ourselves up to have the best sleep we possibly can? I love that you talk about how you shifted your eating cycle up to ending your last meal at 5 p.m. It makes sense that your sleep got better because you're not digesting all these things before bed. So
Right.
what's some other tips to improve our sleep?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can wake up same time every day, and if I need to wake up at a different time, maybe earlier, I don't even need to set an alarm. Usually, I can just like
Wow.
know I have to wake up at that time, and usually my body will get up. Um, and you'll see once you're in a pattern, my pattern is now I'll lay down on the couch and I'll usually pass out really quick, and then I'll get up and go to bed. So that's one thing is you use your bed. Our brain it does a lot with association, right? It associates something. So your bed only wants to be associated with sleep,
Mm.
maybe sex, but sleep definitely, right? So you don't want to be watching TV in bed, reading in bed, awake in bed. You want to be asleep when you're in bed. So don't go to bed until you're actually tired to go
Mm.
there. Keeping on the same schedule, getting light first thing in the morning, like that is probably one of the easiest things you can do. If you can't go outside, at least go by a window, right? Even a cloudy day, like it's been raining for, I
Hmm.
know, I'm in San Diego. It's like, oh, come on, your weather's not that bad, but we've had a lot of rain.
Yeah.
But even going out, cloudy days are still way brighter as far as a whole light spectrum for our eyes than indoor light. So getting light first thing in the morning, getting light throughout your day. I always say like, go take a walk at sunset. It's a great time. That'll like really shift you, kind of
Mm.
down, regulate you down in the evenings. Those are the biggest things with light. And then of course, at least hour before you go to sleep, that's when you need to have a nice calming ritual. So screens go off, dimming lights, candles are great, um, and reading a book instead of a screen.
So
So,
valuable, so valuable. And I know so many of us don't follow that at all. So
and you'll see,
it's
like, but that's the
a
thing
different
is
difference.
we can steer ourselves. So in the morning, you want to do things that kind of up-regulate you, right? Not
Mm.
just caffeine, but like moving your body, getting light, right? Getting your brain a little creative. And then at night, it's funny. They're like, oh, well, I can't go to sleep. Well, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing this. I'm running all day. Then I get home. I spend time with the kids or whatever, and then I'm sending emails until 10 o'clock at night, and then I lay down. I'm like, okay, why am I not going to sleep? So you have to give yourself the time and the space and down regulate yourself so you can. So you're in control of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So many of us need to hear this right now, I'm sure, especially during this time, like where, many are homeschooling kids and they're trying to manage their business that they might be doing at home or whatever. And it's all these things piling on top of each other. So if I could go back to the cold therapy, because I'm super intrigued by it. So for
Yeah.
somebody that isn't able to go into an actual ice bucket or ice bath, what's the best way we could start to implement it into our life at our home? What's the like baby steps?
Yeah, sure. I know. I always say, just make it practical. Cold exposure is not about going in an ice bath. That's not what it means. Um, Easiest thing, cold shower, but you don't have to go into it cold. Um, that's no fun at all. So easing into it, take your regular warm shower, shampoo everything. And then at the very end, turn it a little bit cooler. You don't even have to start all the way cold. Just turn it a little bit cooler. Use the breathing. Maybe instead of counting time while you're in there, just have yourself be able to do 5 long exhales, right? Then come out. And then just try to get it, I always say, try to get it a little bit colder first, and then worry about maybe staying in a little bit longer. Wim's, they've got a great shower challenge up on their website that you can print out and kind of mark off the days. Also on the Wim Hof Method app, it's a free app. You can go through the breathing. They have the breathing on there, and also marking off. It's like a calendar, to mark off your days. So showers are easiest thing to do. Few other things, just going outside when it's cold. Again, it's not about jumping in an ice bath. Go outside when it's cold, maybe a few less layers. Now, right now, anyone new to cold exposure, don't go crazy right now, because we have so many external stressors already that this isn't something you want to really dive into and just add something on top of that. We have enough, other stressors to kind of train ourselves throughout the day. So now do it, but just start very light, right? It doesn't have to be long. If you do full immersion, like an ice bath, 2 minutes max starting out. It's, people always want to be, oh, I'm advanced, I'm going to stay in for 10, 15 minutes. No, that doesn't mean you're advanced. Most of the time that means you're stupid, because you haven't earned that, and they end up hurting themselves. So it's more about that training, that shift, right? Training the shift from stressful to calm.
Oh,
so we have going outside in the cold, showers. You can also take buckets with ice water and do your hands and feet. Right? Hand in, out, in, do a few rounds with your hands and feet. That's a really simple one. So make it practical.
And then you're supposed to do the cold therapy generally in the morning. Am I correct?
It's better in the morning. 1, it wakes you up. 2, when you're in cold, what your body's doing is it's heating itself back up, which in the morning, you want your body temperature is rising. And at night, you want your body temperature to decrease. You actually sleep better. You say your brain actually decreases about 2 degrees Fahrenheit overnight.
Wow.
So it needs to come down. So cold in the morning and then warm shower at night, because when you're in the warm, your body's giving off heat. So it's trying to decrease its temperature.
And then I know that sometimes people dunk their heads in the cold plunge baths. What's the benefit of doing that? Is there a different benefit to the head getting submerged in cold water? Like, for example, if you were to do it in the shower, what's the benefit, or is there no difference?
There can be a difference. And with all of this stuff, we always get questions. Well, how cold does it need to be? How long? What's the magic formula? I don't think we'll ever know that. I mean, there's research that tells us, some things. But it's always context, like, why are you doing it, right? Are you doing it to wake yourself up? Are you doing it to calm yourself down? Are you doing it to just train your blood vessels? But putting the face in, especially if you do a full ice bath, is just another variable to train. So and depending on which way you dunk the face, if you go backwards, it's much more stressful than going forward.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Which there's, people think it's ice baths just going in and staying in for so long and getting out, but there's so many different variables you can train within that. And the dunks are one of them. Same thing. If you do it in the shower, or another thing I suggest is you get a shallow bowl with some nice cold water in it, and you hold your breath, put your face in. You're not doing any breathing before, just a regular breath hold, put the face in, and you can activate what's called the mammalian dive reflex, which actually drops your heart rate.
Hmm.
They use this, doctors will use this, even pediatric doctors I've talked to, is the one thing that will help get kids' heart rates down if they're in some kind of fit
Wow.
or anxiety. And it's one thing I've found with people with anxiety. If they're in a panic attack, there's no saying, calm down, do this breathing. No, when they're in it, the cold, they'll use like an ice pack around the eyes on the face. And that's one thing that will help immediately.
Hmm.
So it's weird because you get calmer, but it also kind of wakes you up, so you kind of have, you have a little of both of those, which is nice. But if I ever get in the throes of it in the middle of the day, like, I don't know, a crappy phone call or something, I can't get out of my own way. Cold is definitely one good disruptor.
That's so great to know. And is it something we should utilize every day? Like there's no downfall in doing it every single day, a cold therapy in our
No,
shower
but
or
I say mix it up. It's
Mhm.
like with anything else. Yes, routine, do your cold exposure every day. Volatility, variability, switch the cold exposure up. Do just your hands and feet one day, shower the next, mix it up, train in different ways.
Yeah, that's so amazing. It's so absolutely fascinating. And I'm just curious. So, most of you're not able to do your one-on-one training right now or your workshops, but is it based on when you're teaching people? Is it based on doing the Wim Hof method and doing the cold therapy plunge with them and walking them through how to handle it? Is that usually what you do on your one-on-one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So one-on-ones and workshops, I was doing a lot of corporate masterminds where we'll actually we'll do all three pillars of the Wim Hof method, the breathing, mindset, commitment, and then we'll all go in ice baths. Online, I'm going to do probably next couple weeks, I'm going to do a online 1.5 hour Wim Hof method breathing. So I'll talk about the science. A lot of people are doing just the breathing,
Hmm.
but what we teach at the workshops is like, okay, well, what's the science behind this and why am I doing it? Which I think is important, for people to know.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do an online thing with that, and then working on my Expand Your Human stuff online as well.
It's so amazing. Yeah, I think that's the one thing that is so fascinating is that for so long when Wim Hof was, sharing his knowledge with other people, it was so unbelievable what he was able to accomplish. And so once there was scientific backing, like, whoa, there's actually something to it. Now you guys are able to teach the benefits of this. And it's quite remarkable that, I mean, it seems like so many are starting to practice these things. And it's because the scientific background and research that the benefits. So it's remarkable. Well, so I know you're expanding your online presence with Expand Your Human. And so where can people best find you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty good at Instagram. Facebook, not so good. So Instagram is a good place to find me. And then my website is drtrishasmith.com. And yes, I'll be putting out some stuff on sleep, like a little ebook, and in there I'll have my you can write your sleep strategy, which
Hmm.
will give you like, okay, if I need to wake up at this time, what time should I go to sleep? And what time should I stop caffeine? What time should I stop my food? So you can actually write those times out, because there's, a lot of talk like, well, you shouldn't have caffeine too late. Well, what time is that? So I have a sleep strategy in there where
Oh,
you can
that's
actually
great.
write stuff out, some morning and nighttime routines. And then I'm also doing I'll have a breathing one coming out as well, with some videos on like, where do you start? Like we were talking about, there's a lot of different breath work out there,
Mhm.
but where do you start, and why should we do it? So
Yeah. And there's
yeah.
different breath works for different things you're combating? Like basically, I know there's the breath of fire, and there's I can't even remember all the names to be honest, but I know there's different type of modalities for breath work that are serving certain things. So I'm sure you teach a specific one that is really to calm down and bring down your threshold of the stress and anxiety, and
Yeah.
also to you know, calm your mind and all that
Yeah. And
beneficial
like,
stuff we
just
all need.
what is a good breath, you know, because
Right.
it matters. You know, the way we breathe actually matters. The way you breathe all day matters. So if you, you know, take, I don't like to call it dysfunctional breathing, but if you take a, you know, a not so optimal breathing pattern into Wim Hof method, or, you know, breath of fire or whatever else, you know, you're just stacking that on top of something that's not good. So have a good foundation of what is a good breath, you know, what should my mechanics look like, and then put different practices on top of that.
Yeah.
And you're right, you should be, you know, Wim Hof is good because it actually, you was during the breathing, you're going to get a little bit, you're going to raise your heartbeat up, and then you go into a breath hold and you're going to decrease your heart rate. So there's a good place to train, again, a little bit of stress, but then there's times you want to do, you know, something more relaxing.
Yeah.
Dr. Weil's got a great one. The 4-7-8 breathing is awesome.
Hmm.
So yeah. And I always say you start your breath practice by just being aware of your breath throughout your day.
Yeah. Awareness is key. It's
The
key.
easiest way, just like, okay, I'm gonna start my breath practice today. Just be aware of your breath as you're going about your day.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I love that. Well, I always ask my guests the same question. So, first question: if you wrote a book on your life story, I don't know if you're on the way to doing that. What would be a piece of advice you would share on the first page that everyone needs to hear?
Awareness is our greatest superpower.
Mm. Oh, I love that. And then, what does a passionate, purposeful life look like to you?
Empowering people in their own health, and, you know, letting them know that they're not just at the mercy of what their bodies are doing, but that they can steer themselves where they want it to go. And yeah, just sharing that and helping people, you know, have a good, healthy life.
Yeah, and that we have the ability to take that into our own hands. That's what's
100%.
yeah. Oh, I love it. Well, this has been an absolute honor. I am so privileged to have this conversation, and I can't wait to share this with the world. And it's so fascinating. I'm just so thankful for all you are serving onto the world, and I know you're making a huge impact in people's health, especially, and helping their mindset and to thrive in life. So, thank you so much, Dr. Trisha Smith.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on, sharing me with your community. And I know you're out there spreading good words and helping a lot of people as well. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.